Khalid, to all the distinguished dignitaries who have traveled miles and miles and have crossed borders and have joined us this morning. But ladies and gentlemen, we are glad to have you here with us at the 6th Annual Eastern Himalayan Naturenomics Forum and look forward to 2 days of fantastic, thought-provoking conversations led by a multiple disciplinary team of speakers and panelists. Well, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished dignitaries here present here, it's time for me to thank all our proud partners without whose support and effort this conference would not have been possible. To start with, we extend our heartiest thanks to GEO, Hemendra Kothari Foundation, Wildlife Conservation Trust, that's WCT, Tata Global Beverages Limited, Tata Steel Wildlife Trust of India, that's WTI, Worldwide Fund for Nature, India WWF, Nummuligar Refinery Limited, Global Managed Services, that's JMS, Eastern Himalayan Botanic Ark in residence with Wild Masher and Yoga. We also thank our knowledge partners this morning, Ashoka Trust for Research in Ecology and Environment, that's ATREE, Club of Rome, Current Conservation, Conservation International, Dakshin Foundation, Elephant Reintroduction Foundation, Green Guard Nature Conservation, Japan Antiver Environmental Education Forum, Cumming Institute of Botany, that's KIB, MASK, Mussoorie Botanical Garden, Mountain Partnership, Myanmar Matters, Scandinavia Asia Foundation, Tokyo University. We also thank our media partners this morning, Ohomia Protidin Times, our digital partners, Devix and East Mozo, without whom, as I stated, ladies and gentlemen, this conference would not have been possible. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's an early morning conference, so everyone present here, we should start the conference with a big round of applause for ourselves for taking the time out and joining us this morning. So, ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause. Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen and dear members in the audience, last year we launched the concept of rural futures, a holistic and community-centered approach to conservation aimed at enhancing the capacity of forest fringe communities to be the steward of their own natural resources with the aim of refocusing conservation dialogues in the Eastern Himalayas. This year, we continue the conversation we began on rural futures in 2017, expanding and to explore the interdependent aspects of shaping conservation among the rural and forest fringe communities across the Eastern Himalayas. Over the next few days, we aim to explore interlinkage between the social, environmental and economic aspects of promoting rural futures while touching on topics such as livelihoods, community conservation initiatives, grassroots dialogues, cultivation and strengthening nature capital. Through these conversations, we aim to create a roadmap of tangible, meaningful changes we can initiate in the coming year. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we gear up for this year's conference, let's take a look at highlights from last year's conference to set the tone for the next 2 days, and after which I invite Mr. Ranjit Barthakur, the founder and thought leader of the Balipara Foundation, to share his insights from the previous year and set the agenda for the coming session. Ladies and gentlemen, now we'll have a view of the highlight videos. So please have a look at the giant video screen that's been put up exclusive for everyone present here.
I welcome you to this forum, the theme of this conference, which is Rural Futures.
I find this particular event as one of the leading get-togethers. How do I say this? The leading Aribada in our country, and something that happens on the informal side, which leads to many conservation actions taking place.
It's a wonderful learning experience, trust me.
First of all, let me thank Balipara Foundation for giving us an opportunity to share our work.
Probably the best attendance we've had. We've had a lot of upsides and we've had some downsides.
Panel is fantastic, foundation is doing well and making contribution to the community in Assam and Northeast and India at large.
Things do not change in a day, so it might take time, but I hope it touches them and it brings changes to their lives.
And welcome to tonight's 5th Balapara Foundation Awards.
I'm really very happy to attend this conference, particularly to see the heroes who have been doing the great service for preserving our ecological or our natural resources.
The audio visuals. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please give it out loud for Mr. Ranjit Barthakur, the founder and thought leader of the Balipara Foundation, to share his insights from the previous year and set the agenda for coming sessions. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry that there's still some people stuck downstairs. Maybe it's one way of sort of judging success, that you can't get everybody into the hall. Maybe you just chose a smaller hall to make sure that it was really more functional. But good morning, everybody, and thank you, Vandana, for making the time. You won't believe it, we've been trying for 3 years actually to reach out to you. And it's very difficult for people to come to the Northeast, not because of your intention not to come, but just because that you've been so busy. And the subject that you talk about, which is about communities and people, and in a way, the revolution that you have encouraged us to lead has been very has been very rewarding. And a lot of the things that you have written and said about is something that we try to imbibe, maybe not successfully. So next time, if you come a longer time, we'll take you to the field, which is much more. I don't know where to start. When I was looking at my photographs there, I was just trying to judge, have I performed better or worse? Have I lost weight or have I put on weight? So I wasn't sure about what that was. But I think I've lost weight. So to me, that performance at least was a good one as far as I was concerned. I think the time of reckoning is always at this time when we have this foundation. When we have this foundation meet, and this forum, I think there are 5-6 things which have been successful this year, and there are 5-6 things which haven't been successful. So this is the time for audit, as I say. This is the time for a balance sheet to the people who actually support us, our founders, and our sponsors, our people who actually accept us. I think the biggest success really has been that we have engaged much more with people than before. I think there is a quantum, we can talk about it, and the concepts developed by Robin and sort of on rural futures, both on the field and even in theory, have been absolutely phenomenal. We are in fact failing in the modern aspect of connectivity. Hi, Rolf. If applications and if connectivity is a main theme that we need to adopt, because we are part of the real world, and most of us here are townies. Hardly any of us really live in the village, except that this time we've got many more people from the village and communities who we work with and who we learn from. Ours is not a pedantic organization where we go to teach, we go to learn and then try and help them to integrate with some of the linkages that are important for them to link back into their own programs, starting with funding and finance. So if we have failed, I think there are 3 areas where we didn't do well, and on a scale of 10, if we had to rate ourselves, we'll probably get 2 out of 10. One is in the area of our Asian Elephants in the Wild Secretariat. We created a secretariat in the net, in the cloud, but we have not been able to engage enough people in the world to log into it and actually deliver something for people, including any kind of help required. So that is one. The second thing is we haven't succeeded in doing much for elephant country. And elephant country is something that we have worked on tirelessly. We've succeeded and failed. And quite, it's not strange to me. And no criticism of the government, no criticism of anybody, but criticism of individuals for sure. The State Bank of India gave us money to a very small amount of 6 lakhs of rupees. And all of you who don't understand banks, that's not even, a small amount. Let's say $10,000. I think to do some help in a project in Kalindwar. Quite strange, they sent an auditor from another town, and this auditor came and made a report. Of the many things in the report that they wrote, one of the report elements was, it wasn't much, the project cost is 1 crore rupees, so we were doing State Bank a favor to participate because I don't see them doing this kind of grassroots work. So we actually did them a favor, which we shouldn't have, as we learn in retrospect. So they found a criticism saying that the bills on the petrol for the motorcycle were not actually from a petrol station. So therefore, that was a big flaw. 2, they found a very big flaw in this, and the person who helped us is Anil Kumar from Axis Bank in the same project. They gave a similar amount to start with. It was built up later. They basically said, why have you put Axis Bank in addition to this? There should not be any partner in this. So that was the second. Third observation, they've insinuated that actually there is a kind of corruption which is there because we have mortality of plants, and that plant mortality is a function of weather, function of people. And it's the first time such a project, if you want to take a project to plant 1 million trees, starting with roughly 300,000, of which I was told yesterday by Robin is 275. So what they did is, they wrote us a letter, they cancelled the grant, they didn't give the money in full, because their promise was for a year, and we accordingly employed people, we sourced the seeds, and suddenly they said, no, we can't give you anything, because this is not correct. So we asked them what is not correct, and there's more money spent on this exchange of letters. So I wrote to the chairman of State Bank, and I called him up and said, why are you wasting so much time to do this? We don't want your money, and if you want the 6 lakhs, we'll give it back, because it's too tiring to do this. This is the largest bank possibly in Asia. This is the largest for sure in India. If this is the way that they want to cooperate with people, and now I've heard there's many more such challenges, not just with State Bank, but other banks also, because they're sitting in Bombay, they have no clue of what's happening. To me, this has been a big reversal and a failure of last year. That means we've not been able to educate them to understand what they're really doing. And this is not corporate social responsibility. This is the very purpose of the bank for us. Our very purpose of existence is social dimensioning of our lives, with our people, with society, and with our stakeholders, who are people. So they're not, the CSR word has actually corrupted our minds also, because this corporate social, no, this is your responsibility. The very purpose of setting up any business is to work with society, because you take the money from them finally. So this is completely an erroneous thought, that they're doing us a favor in CSR. So I thought the next step is, let me take it further. I talked to the finance minister, so he's called a meeting in Delhi. And I said, I want to take it to the Prime Minister, that for 6 lakhs in Kalindwar, firstly, I asked those guys, do you know where Kalindwar is? So they said, no. So in Assam, so sorry. So I said, where in Assam? So I said, how can you talk sitting in judgment? You're the Managing Director of State Bank of Foundation. I think this is a big, big learning for us in the sector, not NGO sector, in the sector working with people. That I think we need to educate people who have the funds to actually understand that it's not the money we are looking for, it's the impact. So if you really look at this, we've got the courage to actually stand up, because this foundation is built on private money, primarily from a family. It is something that we must be able to take people to task. My idea is State Bank of India should close down, actually, in the whole of the Northeast because of this example. On the contrary, Axis Bank did a fantastic job. They built us on trust. When they have a trustee meeting, they go to the field, they go and show what they do, be it in Rajasthan or MP. I think there must be some amount of learning and some amount of challenging of ourselves. So we failed there, because we've upset a big elephant. We failed to educate them, and we failed to actually progress this thing any further. The funny thing is, when they gave us this fund, they also knew that I happened to chair a tea plantation group. And this is where the conflict of interest comes, So they gave that 6 lakhs. That was nothing to do with me. The managing director and his team decided to take 100 crore loan from State Bank, because I know them. So the conflict is being the chairperson of something which is also in rural India, tea is about rural infrastructure and agriculture, is that they have taken 100 crores, given 100 crores of a loan, and actually they're fighting for 6 lakhs. Even if by any equation, if there is no conflict, and if they just looked at their portfolio, I think this is completely wrong. They should have the courage to say, we don't want the 100 crores, we give it back, and we can take it from elsewhere. There's no shortage of competition for capital. So I just think that, this failure to me is bothering me a lot, so I thought I'd just get it off my chest and share it with friends, and to look for advice as to how do we go about and embark on this education process. What is worse, State Bank went and wrote to Axis Bank, asking them for the certificate of how we do. That's worse. As if to say that you're dealing with somebody who's not corrupt. None of those amounts are actually relevant in terms of the impact. They're important because we want banks to be involved, because finally we're talking about natural capital and nature capital and building natural assets from the field, off the field, for the field, So it's not something out of vacuum. Third thing, I think we basically have not been able to really create the kind of revolution in terms of back to basics. And Vandana ji is here, she'll talk about back to basics, I'm sure, much more than I'm doing. But one of the things is we took upon an experiment to convert a 100-year-old tea estate into organic. We have lost more money there, because despite the government saying Northeast should be organic, despite the government saying go and do it, we lost 21 crores of rupees. So we've not given up. We have a brand. But we learned a lot. as to what sometimes is the impossible. But we're still struggling, it's 10 years, and we're still struggling to actually get back what we want. Problem with this get back is, again, we have failed here. So then how do we convince people that getting back is not better, brighter, faster, cheaper, bigger? That's the mantra of the world, get better, brighter, faster, cheaper, bigger. So because you don't have your numbers, if you're doing 3,000 kilos of tea from 1 hectare, suddenly it drops to 500. They are alarmed because it doesn't happen because the whole structure is built on 500. And the whole worker force is built on that. The laws are such that you can't sort of not ask people to change their dimensioning. And as a result, the cost structure is too much higher than what you do. So that's economics which we understand. The reality, however, is that how do we actually approach? Because subsidy regimes are not regimes of the future. You know, farmers are business people. They farmed for decades, you know, from almost much before the revolutions of industrial revolutions of 1700, before the insecticide, pesticides revolution of early 1900, before the IT revolution. So in our journey, what we found is these experiments, there is nobody wanting to listen. That's the worry that I have. Have we, as people who are leading something, been able to convince somebody? No. Do we want a subsidy? No. Do we want somebody to understand that when you go organic fully, this is what happens, and therefore what do we need to do? We have reached out to the whole world, you know, and I think Ranjit and Conrad, you all had a magazine, so it's called Organic Growth. How do you, the best means of growth comes from within. And I think at some point in time we will present it to Vandana because she was really the inspiration. In fact, I think in the first issue, you had written an article for us. You may have forgotten. But when we did this many years ago, you were the inspiration, and that's why we did this. It's called Organic Growth, and we've talked about many good things also, not just only the challenges, because ours is an experiment for society, ours is an experiment for good water, ours is an experiment to detoxify Earth, you know, ours, that's the experiment. Our experiment is not just to make profit. Of course, profit is important, we understand all of that. So I think we've got that second challenge, of not being able to relate with lawmakers and leaders in terms of this challenge or not, this conversion. I think the fourth area of failure is to develop an application. See, everywhere you go, young kids love apps. Where is that one app which kids ourselves can play with and actually sensitize ourselves? A, for learning, and B, to be happy that nature is part of us, and that nature is not something of the village. As you see the population grow, the good news about urbanization and ruralization is that in 2050, there's a town that the graph goes down, and there'll be more rural people as defined by the planning commission or whatever they call it. There'll be more rural people in 2050 than there will be urban people, because the urban areas are going bust. We all know that. We all know the challenge of drainage, we all know the challenge of rubbish, we all know the entire toxification of water and all the entire meaning groundwater system and aquifers we are poisoning. And at a very big peril. In fact, I was in Bombay talking at a forum, I forget where it was, but anyway I did. And I was saying that all of us here in Bombay, it's a powerful city, you know, lots of money, lots of concrete, lots of good lifestyle options of the modern day. But here, are we really doing good? And these are questions around the world. I'm not talking about anything new. But I'm saying, do you want to build a city? Then you build a road, then you build a, meaning underway, then you build an overpass, then you're layering every city with more and more concrete, instead of just giving a connectivity from the rural areas to a city, if there is a need. And therefore that comes to the dimensioning with which my friend Robin Eastman actually used this term, and I always had a good dig at it, called social mobility. Now, what does social mobility mean? Just simplifying social mobility. All it means is, if the rural area had access to full education, full healthcare, full, infrastructure in a way that is beneficial to all. Don't you think that this benefit of not investing in the city, tripling and doubling, because every time you build a road and an over road and a higher road, you have an even bigger problem, because the per square foot and per kilometer cost goes up by 4 times by the time you reach the 4th level of what we call modernization or renewal missions. We got now renewal missions. And that's why we actually launched last year the Rural Futures. And the Rural Futures concept, which really Saurav and Robin developed in the ground through experimental, if there can be commodity futures, if there can be industrial futures, why isn't there rural futures? I think where we failed is not being able to put it together. I think it's more a lack of, I think we are overcommitting and under-delivering. We've got too many ideas, We have too many ideas, so we're saying 20 things we must do, but actually we're doing only 2, and that too not very well. So Rural Futures has fallen between the cracks, even though we are just taking work that we've done there and putting it in Rural Futures. The concept of Rural Futures is really forecasting, taking a village and saying, where will it be in 2050? What are the connectivity and the norms? Otherwise, we're just what I would call, peeing in thunder. Because otherwise, this is too bad. I'm saying what we're doing is it's serious stuff. Unless you get connectivity going, you don't have it. So let's say, and it's not government's fault. Government is us. It's our fault. We have an airport in Tezpur, built 100 years ago, let's say, 70 years. There was better connectivity with Tezpur than there is today. How can it be that there was a daily flight in 1947 and today there isn't a daily flight? So what is happening is everybody from Arunachal, everybody from North Bank, all drive in 1 million cars, buses and trucks and come to Guwahati instead of getting this aircraft with stuff. So therefore, whether you talk eco-tourism, whether you talk village tourism, whether you talk rural futures, we have infrastructure which we don't use, which is the next point that I'm talking. Have we been able to therefore convince ourselves that we have things which we are not using, underutilized assets, then over-exploitation of assets happen. So really the linkages are completely real, and it's for the younger people here and children here to understand that it's not the best time of the world to be here, but you have the best opportunity in the world to change and to be part of this change. So I think with that, I'll ask my colleague, I said the bad things, I'll ask my colleague Probir, who's actually should be here. I don't want to talk anymore on stages, but firstly I exceed my time, then I say what I want. They give me a big speech which I don't want to read. So I just say things from my heart, and that's where it is. So, and then we end up, everybody writing some marks for me saying that I haven't done the right job. So Probir will tell you the good story. And then after that, I think we can request Vandana Shivaji, whatever the program. Sorry. Okay, so thank you all for coming, and sorry to bore you all if I have. But I just wanted to lay some things that our foundation needs to back up much more in terms of work and influence than we have been able to do. We value our partnerships a lot. We've learned a lot from A3, especially. I'd like to know that. I think our partnerships with World Wildlife Fund is there. It's dormant, I think. We need to do much more. It's not their fault, it's our fault. I think if you really go through the real balance sheet appraisal, I think last year was 40 on 100, I think I'm being very fair, actually. It may be a little less, but nevertheless. Okay, so thank you all again for coming, and thank you for looking forward to the next 2 days. Probir.